Hey, welcome to the What the Wealthy Do podcast, where we pull the curtain back on how the wealthy build wealth and show you how you can apply it to your real life. I'm your host, Stephanie Dorsey, and today this episode builds on the 4M framework. If you remember, that is the money mindset and how the wealthy move money, how they make money, and how they manage money. Today, we are going to be talking about how the wealthy manage their money. It would be a mistake to assume that the wealthy are only wealthy because they earn a lot of money. That is a very short-sighted view of the world. The wealthy have money because they view money as a tool, and they have a plan for every single dollar. But before we get into it today, I want to let you know that this podcast is not intended to give financial advice. It is only intended to give financial education. All right, so let's go. I like to use the imagery of thinking of your money or looking at your money as little soldiers. Maybe because I grew up in the 90s and I'm thinking no limit soldiers. I don't know. But shout out to Master P. You look at your money like a soldier. I did hear someone else, she looks at her money as like, okay, I need you to go out there and you need to make some friends, and you and your little friends can come back home to me, right? So the point is, you want to use your money as a tool to make more money. And that is what the wealthy do. And that is why the wealth gap is continuing to widen. And I know you're probably thinking okay, but the wealthy, especially because I like to use the ultra high net worth folks as our example here, they have teams of people, tax strategists, accountants, lawyers. They have all of these people to go out and figure out the best strategies for how they can make money. That is true. But in this day and age, this wonderful informational age where we have a lot of the information that these tax strategists, accountants, and lawyers have, we can use the information we have, cherry pick the things that they do, and apply it to our life when it makes sense. All right. So the chief question that the wealthy ask is my dollar working for me? Right? And so, meanwhile, most of us are taught okay, we want to make more and spend less. And we're probably taught to save, right? But we're not taught to make our dollars work for us. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how the wealthy do it and what we should be doing as well. Okay. The ultra wealthy don't believe in letting their capital sit idle, not even their cash, right? Their cash is supposed to be working for them. Their cash or cash equivalents should be working for them as well. That means the cash is not going to be sitting in some regular bank's checking account earning 0.01% interest on it. That's crazy talk. When you hear the fact that Warren Buffett basically cashed out all of its wealth and he is sitting on billions of dollars, you think he got that joint in a Bank of America checking account? Yeah, I know I shouldn't name check banks, but really Bank of America checking account? No, he doesn't. He has that money somewhere working for him. And then the money that isn't set aside for cash for a rainy day or for emergencies, they have that money invested. It's invested, earning outsized returns. So let's talk about how the wealthy invest. In short, the wealthy are always looking for ways to flip their money. In other words, they're investing their capital. And then I originally thought when I got around more wealthy people that the conversations would they would sound a little different, and they would just always be talking about investing and things like that, or talking about money. And it's a little bit more nuanced than that. They are having conversations about money, but it's not in terms of I need to make money, yada, yada, yada. It's really, they invest to enhance their lifestyle. The way that they talk about money and the way that they look at money is so ingrained in how they move about the world. If you're not paying attention, you might miss it. So a lot of wealthy folks, they invest in things that align with who they are and what they care about. So if someone loves Broadway shows, they will invest in a Broadway show. If someone loves eating, if they're a foodie and they like eating at Michelin star restaurants, they will invest in a fine dining restaurant or back a chef. These people buy houses and beach houses and luxury real estate. They buy luxury real estate not because they're fabulous, but one of it is because it's a good investment. Real estate, luxury real estate has historically been a good investment, but also because it enhances their life. Like, and this flipped for me. I used to think like, well, I don't want a beach house because I don't like to travel to the same place multiple times. I like to go to different places. But I was looking at this wrong. Like, they don't buy a beach house because, oh, they just like traveling to the Bahamas. And so that's why every year they only want to go to the Bahamas. That beach house or whatever is not a part of their 1 or 2 big vacations per year. That is just where they go on a Tuesday. That's where they go. Life is stressful. A weekend in November, they're like, oh, okay, well, let me go to my house so I can get a change of scenery or whatever. And that's just something that they do. And so when you think about it like that, the way they look at life and the way, remember I talked about they believe they deserve to have wealth. They believe they deserve to have an enriched life. That is what their investments do for them. That is what, investing in a Broadway play, I'm going to go and see this play on a Thursday, right? That's what investing in this beach house does. I need to get away this weekend. Let me go to my other house and get a change of scenery. It's about enriching their lives. And you know what? Please believe my apartment in Paris and my beach house is now on my vision board. Okay, so we talked about they're always thinking about investing. Let's talk about where they're putting their money. 10%, if we look at it, again, we're talking about the ultra high net worth individuals. Those are the individuals that have, they're worth at least $30 million. So 10% of their wealth is in cash or cash equivalents. 15% of their wealth is in fixed income. 29% are in stocks, both domestic and foreign or global stocks. And then 46% of their wealth is in alternatives. And so let's break down what exactly those mean. Cash, we talked about that. Cash is not just sitting in a checking account in Bank of America. There is likely in, something that is really liquid, but still earning them money. And again, liquidity is about being able to get cash really quickly. And then so you have fixed income. Fixed income is a little different. That is an investment that you're still making money, but it's going to give you some type of regular distribution or regular dividend. It'll be more of like a CD, or it will be a high yield bond or something like that. They give you regular cash back from it. And then we already know what stocks are. And like I said, there's going to be foreign and domestic stocks. And then the big bucket here, 46% are alternatives. And that might be new for some of you. Alternative investments are any investment that's not a stock or bond or cash. So everything else, mainly they're private, right? So you got to know somebody, if you will. They include things like venture capital, private equity, commercial real estate, private credit, fine art, music, like music licenses or catalogs. You could think about making movies. Every time you make a movie, it's a new venture. Sports memorabilia, luxury goods, crypto, all of those things, etc. Vintage cars, like vintage watches and whatnot. All of those things are considered alternative investments. And so I just want to double click on the fact that, 46% of wealth is in alternatives. I learned a statistic that was just absolutely mind-blowing to me. 81% or 4 out of 5 ultra high net worth individuals invest almost half of their wealth in alternative investments. And this is frankly why the wealth gap is widening so dramatically. So when you think about the technocrats of the world and how they amass their wealth, someone like even the CEO and co-founder of NVIDIA, or if you think about Elon Musk or you think about Jeff Bezos, all of these gentlemen, Peter Thiel, they invest in venture capital or private equity, meaning mean, they buy stocks or shares of a company while it's private, and as the company grows and then ultimately goes public, where now they offer stocks where you or I can buy them off of Robinhood or E-Trade or whatever, the value of their shares just increases dramatically. And this is how they amass billions and billions and billions of dollars of wealth. So, historically, just so you know, the alternative investment market has quadrupled over the last 15 years. And in that same time frame, if you look at private equity alone, it has outperformed the S&P market in that same time frame, right? It's crazy. This is just a wonderful stat that a lot of us don't know, because historically we had to be invited to participate. You just had to know somebody. And I mean, there are quite a few barriers to entry from an alternative perspective. And frankly, that's what my company Margins Capital is focusing on. We're not going to dig too much in that today, because trust me, I love talking about alternatives, and we will have an episode where we focus wholly on alternatives. But I do want to say that things are changing, whereas historically it was really difficult for us to invest in alternatives. That is loosening and opening up. And there have been some things in the news where even like, frankly, all of the big players, the Apollo Global, the Blackstones, all of the big players are trying to focus on the retail investor. Also in the news, I don't know if you've heard about this, but they're thinking about bringing private equity to the 401ks of the world, so you can invest via your 401k. I have a lot of thoughts about that. And there are a lot of companies that are offering to individuals the ability to invest in private equity or alternative investments. And so this is opening up. It's really important for you to understand what it is before you just hop in, but know that this is how the wealthy have been amassing more and more wealth. And we're about to enter into a time where you can really make quantum leaps in your investing. So what does this mean for you? This means that after you pay your bills, are you making sure that every dollar that you have is working for you? And in what ways are you doing that? So, for instance, your cash. Is your cash sitting in that checking account or in that type of account that's not earning a lot of interest? I mean, especially today where you can get a account that has a 4 or 5% APY, like you absolutely should be having your money in a high yield savings account at a minimum. Right? Are you taking advantage of your corporate benefits? I mean, there's free money out there. For instance, your 401k might have a match. You taking advantage of your company's employee stock purchase plan? Are you taking advantage of a health savings account? Are you taking advantage of any other type of accounts, flexible spending account or dependent child care account, like things like that? Are you taking advantage of all of the corporate benefits that your job has to offer? We are going to obviously dig deeper into that. Do you have a brokerage account? Like after you have set aside your emergency savings and after you have invested in your 401k, like what are you doing with the extra money that you have? And do you have extra money? You probably do. Right? Are you investing in things that align with the life you want to live? Right? You get to invest in what matters to you. Like if you are not about that life and you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to have a side hustle. You can just invest in somebody else's. Right? If you don't want to own property and be a landlord like me, you don't have to do that. You can just invest in real estate in another way. And then lastly, are you invested in alternatives? Like any alternatives? And if not yet, like have you started to think about what alternatives you would want to be invested in and how you can invest in them? Because I encourage you to do that. So again, it's not about copying exactly what the wealthy do. It's about cherry picking what they do that works for you and applying it to your life. And as you continue to grow and amass more wealth, maybe more and more things, or you might change and different things might make sense for you to apply in your life. We get to use What the Wealthy Do as a guide to how we want to manage our wealth, because it's inefficient to not do that. Learn from the mistakes of others, because life is too short to make them all yourself. There's no need for us to reinvent the wheel here. They spending all their money to figure out the tricks of the trade, so let's learn from what they've invested in learning. So as we wrap up, wealthy people don't guess where their money went. They tell it where to go. And they've been thoughtful about how to make sure that their money is absolutely working for them. Can you say the same about your money? Okay. Anywho, thanks for hanging with me today on What the Wealthy Do podcast. If this episode helped you to think differently about your money, share it with another person. And please follow, like, and subscribe, and give us a 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts. And we thank you, and we will see you next week.